Hello, Canada. Hello, United States of America. Greetings to everybody here in Panama and all over the planet. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show that runs every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to cover. This is going to be a great show because there's a ton of information here that each and every single one of you need to hear and need to know. As you all know, those who have been watching my show for a long time, I had to escape communist Canada because there's a fatwa that's still there. There's an Islamic fatwa on my head because I told the truth about Islam. And of course, I would say, everybody, that the Canadian government made it very difficult for me and everybody like me to do business, to live, to be free, to do whatever we wanted. I came to a free country. Panama is a free country, everybody, and I'm very proud, very happy to be here. Very happy with the way I've been accepted down here. And I now need to address something that the Canadian government is saying about Panama, which has been my home for the last 7.5 months and will be my home for a very long time to come. All right, everybody. We have a story of a French-Canadian couple who drove a bus from Canada to Panama. And these people didn't really think it through at all. They said, hold on, in my French-Canadian accent, we buy the big bus and we drive all the way to Chile, Colombia. We do that thing, we go over there with Jacques. Yeah, well, what this couple did is they bought themselves a really expensive bus. And they drove this really expensive bus through the United States, through Mexico, through Guatemala, through Nicaragua, through Costa Rica to arrive here in Panama. And I'm guessing maybe that's when they figured out that there is no highway from the Darien area of Panama to Colombia. The land is impossible to build roads on. It's impossible to build a highway on. It's called the Darien Gap because there's an 80-kilometer gap between the last town on the highway in Panama and the Colombian border. Yeah. So this couple, here they are. There's the picture. Yeah, they're French Canadian, and they bought the big bus over there, and they're driving this thing all over the place. Now, here's what they say. This married couple says that they parked their bus and they're just minding their own business, and 15 men with machine guns robbed the bus. Yeah, that's what they said. 15 men with machine guns in a country where you cannot buy machine guns, in a country where if you even had one, the cops will just shoot you dead. Apparently, 15 guys have machine guns, man, and they robbed this French-Canadian couple, So they say that there's the bus with bullet holes. Those are not bullet holes. Those look like baseball bat holes or perhaps tire iron holes. All right, let's look at this picture here. Well, conveniently, I guess they want their windows paid for. But let's carry on. They said that was shot out. I don't see any bullet holes in the staircase in behind that window. So that looks like it was kicked, not shot. You all maybe remember watching the videos of me at various gun clubs all over the United States and all over Canada, shooting hundreds upon hundreds of rounds into various objects. And I can tell you that if you shoot into aluminum stairs on a bus, the bullets will at least bare minimum leave a dent in the staircase. There's no dent. And when you shoot through glass, the bullet goes right through the glass and doesn't shatter the entire pane like Hollywood says. So there's some more bus photos here. That's not what bullets do. That's a tire iron or stick. That's not a gun. What else do we have here? We've got, see? Again, baseball bat. That's not bullets. Then we've got this one. There's no bullets. There's no casings anywhere. That was hit with something. Then what else? Oh, and he's got a boo-boo on his head. And we have one bullet here. Now look at the back of the bullet. Have a look at the end of the bullet there. Does that look like it's been fired, or does that look like a bullet they maybe bought in a, I don't know, a collector store or a surplus store and just kind of dropped there. It also looks like it's been driven into the ground. So someone put it there and stepped on it? Is that what's going on here? And there's the married couple. The French-Canadian chick. She's not bad. Too many tattoos for my liking. But conveniently, they've got themselves a GoFundMe page or whatever this website is. So you've watched me. All of you have watched me walk alone through the worst possible slums here in Panama. And what do people do here? They invite me over to have a barbecue with them. They don't shoot me. They don't hit me with sticks. They don't threaten me. I don't get dirty looks. I have a theory here based on how much attention this married couple, apparent robbery, is getting. And to which they're saying, we want a travel ban imposed upon Panama, so Canadians should not be allowed to go to Panama because our windows got broken on our bus. And apparently 15 guys had machine guns pointing them at us, where you saw that not one bullet got fired on this bus. I have an alternate theory. And I don't care how upset people get with me. Based on the fact that I live right beside a slum, I might add, everyone. I live in an area where I can take 50 steps and be in a slum, or I can take 50 steps and be in the richest land in Panama. I live in this incredible area. It's this perfect balance I've got. If I feel like hanging out and dancing in the streets, I go to the slum. If I feel like going and talking to snooty tourists, then I go to the rich part. But I've never seen guns on anybody. I have never seen a Panamanian walking around with a knife in any threatening manner. The guys that work in Panama, they have machetes, but that is because they cut trees with it. They cut grass with machetes. It's actually a tool of use here. But I've never seen a Panamanian running around with a machete up like this. That's Jamaica. That's not Panama. So I've got a theory that this couple who drive this big tour bus that probably cost them a couple $100,000 to buy and probably costs about $2,000 to fill the tank, I think they ran out of money. That's my take. This is me based on how well I've been treated by the police, by the government, by the poor, by the rich, by everybody here in Panama. There is no way 15 guys showed up conveniently when a French-Canadian couple shows up with a bus. They just show up and shoot the bus where you can see there was not one bullet hole. No, this couple thought they were going to do their dream tour, ran out of cash, and made this story up. That's my theory. So, Canada, Panama City, the capital of Panama, is safer than Toronto. It is safer than Toronto. It is safer than Montreal. It is safer than Vancouver. It is absolutely safer than New York and Los Angeles. This story stinks to high heaven. I'm not buying it. I don't think any of you should either. And the Canadian government right now, they're watching Panama because I'm here in Panama shooting off my mouth about how amazing Panama is, but also the fact that the Canadian banks suck and you should move your money here to Panama, just like I did. So, everybody, don't believe anything the Canadian government's got to say about Costa Rica or Panama. It's all lies. Remember, Johnston Trudeau bought a house in Costa Rica this year, my mistake, and tried to move over $40 million of stolen money into Costa Rica. And the Costa Rican government said, no, you're a left-wing freak, retard, loser. You're not going to move your stolen money into Costa Rica. So what did Trudeau do? He started shutting down the Costa Rican consulates in Canada. Every single thing that you hear that's negative about Latin American or South American countries is because Trudeau is not getting his way. And he knows that investment dollars are leaving Canada and going into Mexico and Panama and so on. And Canada's losing money hand over fist. So he makes up these stories about danger, danger, danger in these countries. Nothing dangerous about it. Alrighty. And if anybody does want to open up a bank account here in Panama, let me know. I'll get it done for you in 5 days. Really inexpensive. Your money is safe here. My money is safe here. I love it here. I'm not leaving. So for that French-Canadian couple, shut up. You're full of crap. I see through your scam. And eventually the average person who visits Panama will also come to understand you're never going to find a gang of 15 guys with machine guns picking on a French-Canadian couple. Because, especially when they parked their bus in a safe tourist area. Okay. All right. There we go, everyone. So tonight, we're going to talk about Kevin O'Leary. For those of us around the world that don't know who Kevin O'Leary is, he's one of Canada's most successful businessmen ever. And he puts on this big show about, I don't care about humanity. I don't care about people. I just want to make money. I just want to make money. Fine. That's his shtick. It's an act, and he's allowed to put on the act. Good for him. His wife killed somebody. We know that. And he was able to, I guess, pay the best lawyer in the world to get her off that criminal charge. Kevin O'Leary is on the show Dragon's Den in Canada, and the better equivalent in the States called Shark Tank. That's him. He calls himself Mr. Wonderful. And I want to talk about a few things that Mr. Wonderful has done and has said. And yeah, there are theories that Kevin O'Leary was the guy driving the boat and he blamed his wife. I can't prove that, so I'm not going to go down that road. But I do want to say that Mr. O'Leary seems very unhinged in this video. For my American friends, for friends of mine all over the world watching this show, Justin Trudeau, who is a pedophile pervert, he's also gay, he's a complete idiot. He is as far left as they come. He's destroyed every facet of Canada, although Canadians let him do it. So Canada, you got to take some blame on that. Now that Trump has won the U.S. election, thank God for that, Trump can put pressure on the Canadian government. But Trump is going to be really busy fixing his own country. He's not going to have time to police what Canada is doing. So everyone is asking what Trudeau thinks about this U.S. election. And of course, Trudeau is in panic mode because everybody wants the conservative side to come back now. Left-wingism has been around strong for 8 years. It sucks. It bankrupts countries. People want to go back to conservatism. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, stands a good chance of winning the Canadian federal election next year in November. But Canadians all say, he's going to be our savior and he's going to fix us all up. No, he's not, because he can't. First off, Trudeau is a freak. He's a psychopath. He's completely out of his mind, and he hates Canadians in general. He made that very clear. But Pierre Poilievre in Canada is the one who's brought forward this digital ID thing. That was the conservatives that brought that up, not the liberals. What he said was, we have to protect children from pornography. Not the pedophiles running the courts in Canada, not the pedophiles running the justice system and the police departments and the education system. He never brought any of that up. He blamed Pornhub.com. That's right. He says Pornhub.com is responsible for all of the pedophilia in Canada. Not his party, not the Liberal Party, not the NDP Party, not the Green Party, not the Democrats in the United States. He didn't blame any of that. He blamed a private company for it. So he says that if you're going to be able to watch pornography on the internet, that we want you to have digital ID. So for Canadians out there that think Pierre Poilievre is the end-all be-all savior next year, should he take office, I'm telling you that digital identification is going to be a thing within 6 months of him taking office. 6 months. You watch. Don't listen to me. But remember what happened the last couple of dozen times Canadians didn't listen to me? Oh, yeah. What happened? Radical Islam took over Toronto. Communist China took over Vancouver. The economy tanked. Pedophiles, just like I told you they would, pedophiles now run the court systems in Canada. Pedophiles do what? They are teachers now in your schools. I warned you about all this stuff. And what happened? I got arrested for it. And Canadians went, yay, Kevin's insulting Canada. You can't do that. Yay, lock him up. Okay, so now what? I'm in Panama getting really rich, and Canadians are stuck in Canada getting really, really, really broke and really, really poor. So I'm not here to gloat on that, but I am here to help Canadians and Americans who are watching this figure out what's really wrong, and I'm going to be offering solutions. I'm not just here to complain, because if I'm going to complain about how terrible things are, then it's just a friggin' echo chamber. And I don't want to be an echo chamber. I want to be the guy that's got answers. And right now, Kevin O'Leary, Canada's richest guy, he's got no answers except for himself. He knows how to make money for himself. Good for him. But I know how to save money for all of you. I know how to make money for Canadians. And I'm going to share some of that with you tonight. So let's play his video today. This is going to take about 4 minutes to get through. So here we go. This is the interview where he seems a little unhinged to me. Here we go.
No, want to talk Canada now. We saw Prime Minister Trudeau's immediate reaction saying, don't worry, Canada, everything's going to be fine for us under a Trump presidency. We're fine with a Trump victory. Kevin, what is Trudeau really up against here?
Trudeau is now a mouse in the kitchen running around. You see them just under your cabinetry. His own cabinet has a broom and they're trying to get him. They're going to get him. They're going to get that little mouse pretty soon. And it's going to be great because it's going to open up Canada to bring back to international investing. I am very excited about investing in Canada again. I haven't touched it in 8 years. Trudeau's the worst manager in history of Canada. I've said that countless times. It's the end game now. It's very important that we get rid of him soon. But I think Canada is in a great position right now because we need energy in North America, and we have it. We need data centers. Canada can lead in AI. We need to get rid of Trudeau. I thank him for his service, and it's time to move on. I mean, they're going to get the mouse. The broom's going to hit the mouse soon. That's what's going to happen.
But the question is, Kevin, who is that leader in Canada? Does Canada even have
nobody?
Such a candidate?
I don't care. I don't care if they put a goat in running Canada. It's better than what we got right now. I'm happy to put a goat in Parliament, and we just listen to that goat nay, yes or no. It's better than what we have right now. Trudeau has killed Canada. The amount of capital that has left Canada in the last 8.5 years, the GDP per capita, the collapse of investment in Canada, it's all on him. He owns it. That guy has damaged our country in such a brutal fashion, it's going to take decades to fix it. It's so important that he get out of there. Please leave us alone. Please leave. Please. His own party is on their knees begging him to leave. He's got to go. We have to fix the country. Please, enough. Please, enough. You can do something else. He's still got his passport. He can stay in Canada if he wants. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't care. He's just got to step aside. The damage, the abuse, the mismanagement, the incompetency. Please don't get me going.
Kevin, you're right. I mean, as a fellow Canadian, that's all I really want for the country is respect for Canada and strength for the nation. But just yesterday, I was speaking with someone here in New York, and they said, hey, Daniela, what's the mayor's name up there in Canada? No one knows anything about Canada. It feels like no one respects Canada anymore. I mean, that's just the vibe I'm getting.
I'm so ashamed of what he's done to us. I went with my wife to a wedding in Cairo just months ago. They wouldn't let us in with our Canadian passports.
Wow, that's
no surprise.
Trudeau, what did you do to us? What did you do to us? The same thing in India, the same thing in China. Like, what did you do? You own this problem. You own it. It's you. It's you. You own it. You own it. I'm so pissed. I have a Canadian passport, the most coveted passport on earth. What did he do to us? I don't even know why they're pissed at us. I have to use my Irish passport to go to a wedding, and I'm so pissed.
Well, thank you for that heartfelt plea, Kevin. I'm sure it resonates with many.
All right, everybody. So He looks a little unhinged. He does. He looks a little unhinged to me here. So let's talk about it. Yes, the Canadian passport used to be the best one in the world to have. But like I said earlier in the show, radical Islam runs Toronto and my hometown of Mississauga and all the surrounding cities. So we're known as a joke. The very bizarre radical leftist LGBTQ freaks, they run Montreal, the second biggest city in the country, and all the surrounding towns like Baie-d'Urville and Pierrefonds and whatever else. It's all crazy left-wing nonsense. Montreal's where all that really radical gay stuff really took off. Then you've got Vancouver on the West Coast is completely owned by communist China. Then you've got Surrey, British Columbia to the southeast of Vancouver, which is completely run by India. So Canada has become a joke in that every other nation and culture and whatnot runs Canada. And we have allowed foreign trash with very low IQs to take over almost every branch of the Canadian government. So Kevin O'Leary comes out and he does tell the truth about the fact that Canadian passport means nothing anymore. It's junk. It's junk. It's better to have an American passport now that Trump has won. But he's saying that with Trudeau eventually leaving, that somehow Canada is going to be a great place to invest. He said that. The guy's worth billions. And that's a really stupid thing for a billionaire to say. And I mean over the top stupid. So I'm going to go now through, and I suggest everybody who's ever thought about going to Canada or investing in Canada, please stick around for the next 90 minutes so that I can explain to you why Canada sucks, why it's going nowhere, and why Kevin O'Leary is wrong with everything that he said. So first off, let's cover something. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with FinTrack in Canada. FINTRAC, FinTrack. It's one of these post-Islam things where supposedly FinTrack was supposed to have a look at all of the bank accounts in Canada that were making really large deposits and transfers and scrutinize them so that FinTrack would know who the terrorists are. Yes, Grayman, I'm a Canadian citizen and I don't want to be. I'm embarrassed by Canada. I'm completely embarrassed by all of it. It sickens me to think what Canada has become over the course of the last 20 years. So yes, I'm a Canadian. I live in Panama now. I've got my residency applications into 6 different countries because other countries around the world have a lot of money. And there's money out there. FinTrack was supposed to protect Canadians and Americans from illegal transfers, illegal bank transfers, terrorist funding and whatnot. And it never once happened. FinTrack has not once tracked down any terror groups in Canada at all. But what FinTrack does do is if you make a transaction in Canada of anything more than $3,000, FinTrack is paying attention to what you're doing. There's your digital identification nonsense right now. So everything you do in Canada over $3,000, this terror watchdog is tracking it. They're recording everything that you're doing. They're doing the same thing with crypto transactions. So there are companies in Canada called Coinberry and ShakePay, BitBuy, and a few others. But if you make a transaction with Ethereum or Bitcoin or XRP or any of the big boys over $3,000, FinTrack asks the following questions. Who are you sending it to? Why are you sending it to them? What is their name? Where do they work? What is their work phone number? What is their home? I'm serious. This is what FinTrack is asking Canadian citizens, not the terrorists who can move whatever they want, but Canadian citizens. Now, Kevin O'Leary, as you know, got involved with Sigmund Bankfried with that whole FTX scandal. And I don't know the exact number, but legend has it that Kevin O'Leary lost over $400 million in Bitcoin and digital asset investment. So what does he do? He opens up a new company called WonderFi, So it's Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary's University for Canadians on how to learn how to deal in crypto, which then turns around and buys up Coinberry, which is a place you could buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then he cooperates fully with FinTrack. So if you're ever wondering why FinTrack is watching what you're doing in Canada, that was Kevin O'Leary, because he got ripped off by Sigmund Bankfried, hopefully who does like 25 life sentences for what he did. But I'm saying to you here is that Kevin O'Leary got angry, and now we got to pay the price because FinTrack is watching every transaction Canadians do over $3,000. Now, why would you want to invest in a country that does that to its citizens? And I'm speaking to you as a Canadian, to Canadians especially. My God. So that sucks. Kevin O'Leary says Canada is going to be great to invest in. Well, here is every single reason that I could think of over the last 2 days why you should not invest one single dollar into the communist and Marxist hellhole known as the Dominion of Canada. You will regret it. First and foremost, Canada is a communist police state. That is correct. A communist police state. The police in Canada are monitoring everything that Canadians are saying. Instead of going out and fighting crime, what they do is they sit on social media like the losers that they are, and they are watching everything that Canadians are saying and filing criminal charges against Canadians, even if the things that you're saying do not affect anyone. They're using Section 319 of the Criminal Code in Canada, which is called willful promotion of hatred, to state that everybody, especially white people who have opinions against the government, need to be charged because somehow they are hurting the Canadian public. Yeah, amazing, huh? So what's going on here is from the year 1998 to about roughly 2004, the crime rate in Canada dropped. It just fell off. So the court system said, we're not going to have those bastards in black gowns in Canada, the judges. We're not going to get our $400,000 salaries anymore. So what they did is they took discretion away from police to not waste their time charging people and arresting people for silly things. And they said, if someone even speaks out of turn, arrest them and put them in the system. So Canada, in that time, the arrests just went whoop, right through the roof. So you can get arrested in Canada for anything. Offending somebody, coughing too loud in a restaurant, they'll call it causing a disturbance. That's the actual criminal charge. Saying anything on social media that left-wing freaks don't like. Protesting now gets you arrested. Yeah. Protest. So if you were to protest any of the pedophiles harming children in Canada, the police will arrest you. And what they always do to make a big deal of it is they send out the really crazy, morbidly obese lesbian cops to manhandle men so that they can make a production in Canada about the fact that men are not to be respected in any way. So with it being a complete police state, nobody's safe in Canada except the criminals. The criminals in Canada are very safe. The more violent somebody is, the safer they are in Canada, but the more intelligent and outspoken they are, the safer they are not in Canada. And yes, I know it's exactly the same in the United Kingdom. So in Canada, honestly, the police are of no value at all. Why do we have police in Canada? Why invest in a country that arrests everybody for nothing? Just to keep the courts employed, to keep the judges and the crown attorneys employed. And for those who are curious, I was originally born in Toronto and raised right next door in the city of Mississauga, which was great when the population was only 175,000. It sucks now with 1.2 million, most of whom don't even speak English and weren't born in Canada. Period. All right, everybody. And the federal election in Canada is next year in November, everyone. So the left wing now. I think that we've all been able, with 4 years of Biden and Harris in office in the United States, have had an opportunity to see what left-wing politics can do to an entire country. America, do you like what happened to your country? Canada, do you like what's happened to your country over the last 8 years? Left-wing nut jobs do not create anything. If you've ever had a look at the politics of left-wingers, here's what they say. Unfettered immigration good, white males bad, Christians bad, Muslims great. We have, pedophilia good. That's how they think. And in doing so, they'll also say capitalism bad, oil bad, gasoline bad, and electricity bad. But of course, everything that they do is on computers and phones, which are made of petroleum-based plastics and which run on electricity, which is created by, you guessed it, nuclear power. So they are out there screaming at the top of their lungs that everything that they use is bad. And what they've done is gone out of their way to look at guys like me and Christians and so on to say that you're bad and we're going to shut your businesses down. So for the last 8 years in Canada, the left wing has gone out of its way to shut down the economy, to destroy the businesses of good people. But, and this is for the conservatives now, for conservative Canadians, it's your fault too. Because when the left wing started saying, oh, that store owner's a bigot or a racist, you went along with it. Why? Why did you go along with that? You went along with it and you helped the left wing kill the economy of Canada. And now the left wing runs everything. They run municipal politics, provincial politics, federal politics. They run the courts, the police, the education system, and they run all the administrative governments and all the administrative government bodies out there. The left-wing freaks who think there are 72 genders and who want it to be legal to have sex with children run the entire country. Why would you invest in a country like that? That's Canada. That's my homeland. I had to leave. I don't want to see pride flags anymore. I don't want to see 500-pound lesbian cops screaming at 13-year-old boys because they had a problem with their fathers. I don't want to see the Royal Canadian Mounted Police going on native reserves and kidnapping women and girls and driving them to Prince Rupert on the West Coast and shipping them to China and Vietnam to be sex slaves. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. And that is what Canada has become. I'm pretty much the best journalist Canada's ever had because I told the truth. I'm the one that exposed Justin Trudeau in his man-on-man orgies back in 2017. The RCMP broke my ribs for that, but it was totally worth it. Totally worth it. And for all this truth I'm telling you now, here from Panama as a Canadian, I had to spend 7 months of my life in solitary confinement because they didn't want me talking. And you notice how they dropped all the charges? 75 charges, all gone. Because they knew that they had me locked up for that time and that they knew that the stupid people in Canada would believe the newspapers that I'm somehow a bad guy because I tell the truth. Well, I couldn't care less what the left wing has to say. Left-wing individuals, to me, are not even human beings. They don't resonate with me as people. They will never be customers of mine. I'm a tax expert from Canada now. I switch careers. I help people get all their money back in taxes. And the left wing will never come to me to get their taxes done because they don't have jobs. They don't have careers. They don't have jobs. They don't have any prospects. They have no future and they have no purpose at all. So let them be angry with me and spread all this around. But because they run the show, why would you invest in Canada? Now, the other problem that we have in Canada, this is a very, very serious one. Radical Islam runs the courts in Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton, Vaughan, and Scarborough, and also in Pickering. You have radical Muslims running the courts, punishing Christians, Hindus, and everybody else in Canada in the court system. You got to stay away. If you're in the greater Toronto area, you should leave because radical Islam runs the show and white cops will arrest white people who criticize radical Islam because radical Islam runs the country now. So why would you want to invest in Toronto, knowing full well that if an Islamic group decides that they want your property, they're just going to go to the courthouse and the Muslim judges now in there will say, oh yeah, Sharia law says you can just take a Christian's land. That's coming. And it's already started. Sharia law is in Canada, in Toronto, in Ottawa, in that entire area. Why would you want to invest in Sharia law? especially when you've got white cops arresting white people who are investing in the country for criticizing Sharia law. Yeah. And people do feel like they live in India and Saudi Arabia now in Canada. It's horrendous. So let's cover now some of the more economic parts of what we're complaining about here. If you're going to be investing in Canada and you move to Canada, the odds are pretty good that your international cell phone's not going to work. So if you want to communicate in Canada, what do you got to do? You got to get yourself about $150 per month phone plan. The last time I had a phone in Canada, my bill was exactly $148 a month. With that, I got unlimited talk and text in North America only. I got limited. I had 20 gigabytes a month of data, which as a journalist and a big mouth, I would burn through in no time. I would usually burn through that in 2 weeks and pay extra. So really in Canada, your cell phone bill could potentially be $200 per month per phone number. Why is it so expensive? It's not like the airtime costs them anything. It doesn't cost them anything. They just charge it because they can, and Canadians won't do anything about it. Here in Panama, I pay $5 a week. Unlimited talk, unlimited text, unlimited data. And because I have unlimited data down here, I deliberately burn through between 20 and 50 gigabytes a week. I'm paying $20, and there's no tax. It's just $20 a month for unlimited everything on my cell phone. Think about that. So how is it that Panama's got it right and Canada's got it wrong when it comes to communication? My God. So when you have a lack of communication, when people can't afford cell phones and the left wing is out there wrecking everything, what we have now, if you're going to be moving to Canada and trying to invest in Canada, is a serious lack of choices of cities to live in. Let's cover the major ones. So on the East Coast, you got Halifax, which is the capital city of Nova Scotia. It's far left. And for some reason, there is this part of it that is the government pays for it. It's the descendants of black slaves from the United States that escaped the United States back then. Now, the Halifax government gives them free money and has been doing it for over 150 years. And in that particular neighborhood, they're called Scotias. These black folks don't learn anything. They refuse to because they get paid to do nothing. Why is that good? I'm telling you that it's not. Halifax has no economy whatsoever. And that's the only city on the East Coast worth talking about. Then I bump over to the capital city of Quebec, which is Quebec City. It's gorgeous. It's 420 plus years old. And it is an old military fort from that era, but it's expensive. You can't afford it. And it has no industry except for one, which is tourism. And with all the left-wing nuts moving there, what they're doing is they're chasing away all of the tourists. The tourists don't want to go anymore because the left-wing freaks have ruined that place. You go over to Montreal, and again, there's no economy anymore at all. There is no economy in Montreal whatsoever. Why? Because the Quebec government runs the province of Quebec in Canada like a completely separate nation. And it's got its own tax structures, and it bills everybody to death. So not only are you paying excessively high federal taxes in Canada, the Quebec government will bankrupt you, and it's bankrupted just about everybody in Montreal. So unfortunately, as amazing as Montreal was from the 40s all the way to the 90s, and it was awesome when I was a teenager. I would drive 5 hours to go there just for the weekends to party it up. It sucks now. You can't do commerce. You can't do business. The Quebec government made sure of that, and so did the radical leftists. Then you've got the capital city of the entire country, Ottawa, which is boring. It's got nothing. There's nothing to do in Ottawa. They say the population's about 900,000, but the only industry there is government. That's it. It's government. Now think about this. When you go to the capital city, you've got the Royal Canadian Mounted Police all over the place, and they're maniacs. Then you've got the Parliament Hill Police, supposedly protecting Parliament. Then you've got all the other local police departments. Ottawa, they've got the city has its own police force. And then in and around the area, you've got the Ontario Provincial Police and then the PN Police and all these other small police forces. There's got to be about 20,000 cops in Ottawa, and they're all miserable. And they're all intimidating people all of the time. Why would I want to live there? Why would you invest in the capital city when the only industry is government and police? And that's not an industry. The industry, I suppose, that could come from that would be the gun companies that can supply guns and the body armor companies supplying body armor. But that's not an economy. That's just the government imposing its will upon the people and wasting tax dollars. Jump over to Toronto now. Toronto, which was, again, awesome in the 80s, it's as non-white as a Canadian city can possibly be. Now, why is that bad? Because Canada's got stupid multicultural policies that state that every time a new culture comes to Canada, the laws and the rules of the country will change to accommodate that new culture, no matter how stupid and violent that culture might be. So Toronto is less than 37% white now. And as a result of the mass influx of Indians, and not the smart ones, like the really stupid ones from all the slums have moved into, from Mumbai and whatnot, have moved into Toronto. There are no more shops that are open. The malls are dead and closed. The white companies have picked up and left because I can tell you this about Indians. They don't give white people money. Chinese people, to which there are too many in Toronto, they only patronize each other. Chinese folks don't go to white restaurants and throw money down. They go to their own. Every race in Toronto deals with its own, except white people are told that they can't deal with their own. So there's this huge race divide, which was, of course, deliberately done, but it's led to an absolutely dead city. It's an unfriendly, cold place. And it's unfortunate that it is the biggest city in the country, but the infrastructure is crumbling. There is nothing to invest in whatsoever that anybody would ever make money on. And if you have a look now, a lot of the condominium projects that are being built, they've been halted. Yeah, Toronto was building a super tall building, just like in New York City, where it was supposed to be 24 floors high for every 1 floor wide, which would have been a really super tall, super skinny building. It got to the 12th floor, and they ran out of money. All the condominium corporations in the province of Ontario, especially Toronto, which signifies about 6 million people, are broke. They're running out of money. So if Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Rich, is stating that he's going to invest in Canada, well, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, the East Coast, what exactly is he going to be investing in? If he's going to be investing, I suppose, in Indian restaurants, then he'll make a little bit of money. But I know Indian culture inside and out. I've been around it for a very long time. And it's all about getting discounts and deals and never paying full price. So good luck with that. Canadians in general, out of all of the countries in the Western world, have the least amount of business acumen. They are the worst business people in the Western world. There's a reason for this. Canada is an isolationist nation. Look at it on the map. You'll see that it shares a border with only one country, the United States of America. The next closest country to Canada is France because they own 2 islands in the St. Lawrence River. The next closest country is Greenland. So what influence would there be internationally within Canada that Canadians would ever know about? None whatsoever. And Canadians spend all of their time saying, I hate the United States, I hate America. Yeah, but you watch the NFL, you watch the NBA, you watch the NFL, you watch American movies. Let me tell you that. Yeah, let me tell you this. When the Marvel movies came out, the End Game, was it? Every theater in Canada was sold out opening week. And Canadians were clapping and cheering for American superheroes. So for Canadians who say they hate America, you sure do lap up a lot of American culture. Now, I love American culture. I lived in the United States for 4.5 years. I made a lot of money there. And now that Trump's back in office, America might actually become pretty damn good again. But Canadians don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to create business plans. They don't know how to apply for loans. They don't know how to make deals to raise capital. And when the business finally gets opened up, they have no clue how to navigate the tax system, and they have no clue how to navigate the local ordinances that always want to shut them down. Canadians will do what they're told. So when somebody opens up a business and some bylaw officer walks in from the municipality and says, you got to do this and this and this and this, a smart person would sue the city for it and would send a no trespassing notice to all the bylaw officers in the city and sue that bylaw officer individually and maybe put a security guard outside and say, yeah, you're not coming back in here. But nope, Canadians capitulate every time. Every single time. They don't know what they're doing. It's very difficult to do business in Canada. There's another thing here is that Canadians, they can't wait to follow the friggin' rules. Rules. How many times have you heard a Canadian say, hey, if I have to wear a mask, so do you. If I have to pay tax, so do you. I haven't paid tax in Canada in 24 years. And Canadians say, if I have to pay, so do you. No. You do what you want. But don't tell me I got to do what you're doing. You know, that whole adage of if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you? I usually get gross when I talk to people like that. I say, listen, I'm willing to bet that you shove 2-liter Coke bottles in your anus, but just because you do it doesn't mean I'm going to do it. All right. And they, of course, get upset with that. And whatever. It's very easy to upset Canadians. So they love to follow rules, and all the rules in Canada are designed to not allow a business to succeed. If you want to open a bar, for example, in Toronto, there are 14 steps you have to go through. And that means there are 14 branches of your municipal government you have to convince to leave you alone to get your bar open. Yeah, that's just Toronto. Vancouver is worse. So we have all of these cities stopping Canadians from opening up businesses, and Canadians, they just put up with it. They just put up with it. Canadians, instead of helping each other out, they argue and bitch and moan and compete with each other. Now, let me give you an example of that. As a Canadian podcaster, you figure that I would have a lot of other Canadian podcasters on my show. As a guest, come on the show, let's talk. None want to come on my show. You know why? Because they're stupid. Because they think if they come on my show, I'm going to steal their entire audience. Canadian podcasters won't let me on their show because they say the same thing. You know, Kevin's going to steal my audience. It's weird. You ever notice how in the United States, podcasters are on everyone else's show? Yeah. Man, Joe Rogan has every podcaster in the world on his show. Tim Pool has every podcaster in the world on his show. Canadians do not work together on anything. And recently, because I've become very successful here in Panama, I have been calling Canadian podcasters saying, I want to pay you. I want to buy advertising on your podcast. No, we're not in it for the money. We're doing it. Are you serious? So I can't buy tax advertising on Canadian podcasts because Canadian podcasters, quite frankly, are friggin' idiots. They have no idea what they're doing. They talk. They might know the subject matter they're talking about, but they're not running it like a business. And then what they do is they get on their show and they say, help me out, donate. Okay, that business model, it worked in 2021. My podcast was number one in Canada for 2021. We had 300,000 people watching every night. So the business model back then was donate, donate, donate now. And people did because we had the numbers. But COVID's over, so there's nothing more to complain about, right? So the numbers began to dwindle. Plus, the Canadian government put they put me in prison for being really good at podcasting. And then when they finally let me out and dropped all the charges, they had put a court order on me, banning me from using the internet for almost a year. So I would have to make phone calls from a landline to my own show just to be able to say something on my own show. That is how Canada functions. So people in Canada will compete with each other because maybe they think that everything is really that scarce. There's no cooperation in Canada in any way, shape, or form. So if you are a Canadian podcaster, I want to buy advertising on your show. Don't be a friggin' idiot. Pick up the phone, because you probably have my phone number. I've given it to every podcaster in Canada. Call me. Let's do some business. Let me take all this money I'm making here in Panama in US dollars and all this money I'm making helping Canadians relocate to Panama and getting their taxes fixed, and let me spend it on your show. But I can't even get Canadians to take my money from me. So what I'm saying here is you're going to be if you're going to invest in Canada, you're investing in a people that don't understand investment. They don't understand money. They just don't get it. So don't invest in Canada because you're going to lose. Now, the other thing I wanted to say here is that for whatever the reason, white Canadian-born people can't wait to tell other white Canadian-born people that you can't crack racist jokes. You can't do that. Okay? You just can't. And it's amazing that they will spend all of their time policing the behavior of other white Canadians instead of going out there and running a business and making money. You know what? I don't care about anything at this particular point in life other than doing what's right. Here's what's right. I'm 53. I'm going to be dead in 30 years. What's right is for me to make as much money as I can to start a family legacy for my children and for my children's children. So I can't care. I don't have the luxury of giving a crap about petty nonsense. I truly don't, which is why I don't care about any of it, which is why I say whatever the hell I want now that I'm in Panama. I know it offends people, but who cares? If you're going to be offended by what I'm telling you right now, we can't do business, obviously, because you're not smart enough to understand I'm actually on your side. I would love to see 1 million Canadians make $1 million. And I would like to actually do all their taxes for them, of course. But I would love to see Canadians being successful. They just don't seem to want to. Don't invest in Canada because Canadians don't know what they're doing. All right? There is this other problem with Canadians in the way that they perceive things. They think that everything is free. And that's the biggest problem with the socialist country that Canada has been for a very long time. So when a Canadian wants you to do something for them, they expect you to do it as some kind of favor. And when you quote a price, they get mad. Look, oh, I thought you were a better person than that. How dare you ask me for money? I am a phenomenal income tax and corporate tax guy. I have taken away more than $40 million from the Canada Revenue Agency, helping Canadians save money. And when Canadians contact me to have me work on their taxes, and I say, no problem. Just grab a 1-hour consultation. It's $150. There's no tax. I'm not charging tax on my consultations for the rest of this year. I'd say about 10% of the time, I get Canadians just blasting me. They write emails 5 screens long, telling me what a horrible human being I am for saying I can help with taxes and then charging money to do it. But they will go to a lawyer and drop 20 grand there. I'm charging 150. Lawyers are charging 10,000. So when I say 150, not 150,000, 150.00. So Canadians get really offended when someone says, I know my worth. You're wanting a service from me and I want to get paid for it. And here's the price. They get really upset about this. So you're dealing with a very childish mindset, which is why I go back to what I'm saying about Canadians having no business acumen. They don't seem to understand the value of someone's skills or times. There was a while from the year 2000 to about 2012 where I would design logos and branding and corporate images for companies. And I would explain to people, yeah, that the charge is $5,000. We will design 4 concepts based on everything that you tell me about your corporation and based on your target audience. And out of that, you pick one, and then we refine it, unlimited revisions until you say it's complete. And people would say, oh, I don't think I should pay for that. Logo should only be $10. Okay. What if I said that to an electrician? You should wire my whole house for $10. What do you think the answer would be? Or a floor tiling expert. Hey, dude, tell you what, why don't you tile 2,000 square feet of floor for $10? I had one guy says to me, okay, so tell you what, buddy, why don't you design 4 logos for us? We'll look at them, and if we like one, we'll pay you. Okay, tell you what am I doing this logo for? Oh, public storage bin. I said, okay, why don't you give me 5 public storage bins for 3 years, and if I think you guys are nice, I'll pay you. No, we don't do business like that. But they wanted me to do business like that. And that is one of the biggest problems with the Canadian mindset in business, is they want everything for free. They always want to weasel their way into something. So you can't invest in a country where more than 7 out of 10 people think this way. Don't invest in Canada. You will lose. You'll lose every penny. Oh, my Lord. Now, this is a big one. So I'm going to get some static for this one, and I couldn't care less, because it's true. Racism against white people is at a repugnant level. The only reason I ever started podcasting in the first place is because, as a white male, married at the time with children, trying to keep my household afloat, as men are supposed to do, I could not find a full-time job for 16 years. I'm sorry, we're not hiring white males right now. We have to give the other races a chance. And look what's happened to Canada. 24 years Canadians have been doing this now. Not hiring skilled white people, but hiring trash from third world countries. And yeah, diversity hires, thank you. And these diversity hires have absolutely annihilated these companies. Annihilated them. Why? Well, as somebody who used to get the strap as a kid, learn grammar, learn English. Okay, fine. I'm glad that I focused my energies on having a vocabulary of over 120,000 words. But then you want me to do business with someone that I can't understand and whom does not understand me. Nope, I'm not doing it. And a lot of us would just walk out the door because we're enraged. We're enraged because you go into McDonald's or a Tim Hortons or a Wendy's in Canada, no one's white and no one speaks English as their first language. No, thank you. I'm out the door. And a lot of Canadians are now seeing it that way and leaving. But you got to be careful, because Section 319 of the Canadian Criminal Code dictates that I would do 2 years in prison just for putting this particular podcast on right now. So you can't even criticize it. And white cops will be the ones to come and arrest you. And white judges will be the ones to put you in prison. Race traitors and traitors to their nation. So the other thing that I wanted to point out here is, on top of Canada being a complete and total police state, it's also a court state as well. The courts in Canada are getting in every Canadian's way with trumped up criminal charges and siding with the municipalities and the provinces when the provinces and the municipalities are registering complaints against good, hard-working private business owners. So the courts now have these black-gowned idiots, losers, who aren't born in Canada anymore, behind the counter siding with municipalities. So people are losing everything that they've got. Why would you invest in Canada if you know that the courts of all of the 10 biggest cities in the country are going to just rip your money away from you because they can? It's not like Canadians are going to take up arms and rebel. They know that. They know that Canadians are the biggest cowards on the planet and will never fight back. So they just keep stealing and stealing and stealing some more, which is why it sucks to do business in Canada, which is why Kevin O'Leary, in that stupid interview that he did earlier, is absolutely wrong. Even if Trudeau took a bullet to the head right now, do you think for an instant the economy would turn around? Would somehow the courts stop being pedophilic? Would the police department stop arresting white people for insulting stupid cultures from around the world? Would Antifa and Black Lives Matter just instantly disappear? Or would the left wing ramp up their efforts knowing now that their leader is gone? Always think through what crazy left-wing jobless losers will do. They'll take to the streets and they will destroy the streets just like they did in Portland, just like they did in Minneapolis, just like they're doing in New York City. Canada, it's the same thing in Canada. And there we go. All right. There's more to cover here. There's so much more to cover. Homelessness and drug use in Canada is right now the highest in the Western world. It's actually per capita outdoing the United States. It's bad. Why? Well, Canadian housing prices are far too high because food is far too high. It's almost $75 a day for one person to eat in Canada now. It's out of control. So what's going on here is the tent cities are showing up all over the country. And it's leading to a couple of problems. Obviously, excessive alcoholism and excessive drug use. And Muslims now, this is the truth. Muslims in Canada have been giving away free fentanyl specifically to white kids and white homeless people, which is why the drug epidemic is so high. Islam is poisoning Canadians, and Canadians are letting it happen. So homelessness and drug use is at an all-time high, which you figure would drop property values, but it's not. So what's going on here is that the police and the bylaw officers in these cities are just going in and committing heinous acts, atrocities, really, against people who are homeless. I went out one night in Calgary. This is 2.5 years ago. And I watched two bylaw officers. They're not even cops, just losers. They walked into a homeless encampment, started ripping down tents, and just started beating the living hell out of homeless people. And as soon as they saw me with the camera, said, "Hey, guys, hey, smile at the camera. Tell us why you're beating up homeless people." And they would yell, "Hey, Johnston, get out of here. This is none of your business." And these guys who were assaulting homeless people would call the cops and tell the cops that we were bothering them and impeding their investigation. But bylaw officers in Canada can't conduct investigations. They're not cops. They're just security guards, losers, violent losers. So the war that the police and security guards across the country have implemented against the people now is horrendous. So are you going to invest in a country where Muslims are deliberately poisoning white people, and then white cops are killing white homeless people who are strung out on Muslim drugs? Why would you invest in a country that does all this stuff? All right, there we go. And AJ says that he lives in Calgary. The cops are just flat out rude to those that are less fortunate. Yeah. The mockery of the homeless in Canada by the higher ups is sick. It really is. It's sick. So with that in mind, all of the rich Canadians have left. They've already left the country. They're in Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama. Some of them are in Argentina. A lot of them are going to former Eastern Bloc nations like Hungary and Poland, the Czech Republic, which has now rebranded itself as Czechia, Slovakia. Everyone's leaving. Everybody who has money in Canada has already picked up and left. So if you were going to go into Canada and invest, there's no millionaires to buy what you're selling because they're gone. And I know this now because I've got a lot of millionaires in Canada contacting me to open up bank accounts for them here in Panama and open up corporations and foundations for them here in Panama. I'm spending a lot of time now with lawyers and bank managers moving Canadian money here to Panama where it's actually safe. So there's nobody to buy your products in Canada at all. I would strongly recommend anybody who's thinking about an investment there, come to Panama, put your money here. Panama is going to be a G20 country in the next 10 years. That's a fact. Canada won't be. Think about that. And thank you, Joseph, for the by the way, can we get everybody who's watching right now on TikTok and over here on Kick? Can we get double fingers going, please? Let's get the hearts flying up the screen here. Absolutely. And if you're watching on Rumble, could you please hit the thumbs up button that's directly below my name there that you see? I really do appreciate that. It really does help the algorithm discover this show and help get information like this out to the masses. All right. Manufacturing, because the rich have left Canada and taken their investment dollars with them, there's no more manufacturing in Canada. Manufacturing plants are gone. But the other problem with manufacturing in Canada, let's just say it was going to come back anyway. Canadians have become excessively lazy people. They want to work 38 hours. They want 3 15-minute breaks. They want the hour for lunch. They want to leave early. They want to do all that nonsense. I don't know. I'm okay working a 14-hour day. I do that now. I get up between 4 and 6 in the morning every day. I start on the phone with my clients. I work with them pretty much all day. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do this live show. And then on the weekends, I'm seeing clients too. And also on the weekends, I'm taking clients of mine who fly here to Panama, around Panama, to check it out. So my workday doesn't stop. I like working. And here in Panama, you actually get rewarded for it. You do make money here in Panama. So I'm wondering, when you've got yourself a job and you've got yourself a house to pay for and children to feed, why is it that you don't want to work the extra hours? Ford left, GM left, AMC cars, they crashed because Canadians wouldn't work hard at the AMC plant in Brampton. Look up the story of the Bricklin. All right, the Bricklin sports car, which was manufactured in New Brunswick. New Brunswickers are the laziest friggin' people in Canada, and the Bricklin did not work as a car because he couldn't actually get New Brunswickers to show up and actually work. What they would do is they would work for 6 weeks in this car manufacturing plant, really half-assed, and then deliberately slap the boss so they would get fired so they could go on UI or EI, unemployment insurance from the province right away. Yeah. Kellogg's left. Heinz left. Oh, yeah. Rally Bikes left. Norco Bikes left. Nike shoes left. Oh, yeah. They're all gone. All the airline manufacturers, they're all gone. Oh, yeah. Every single major corporation in Canada just picked up and left the country. Now, unions, that's a good point, Joseph. Unions have also destroyed everything. We don't need them anymore. All they are is a mafia collecting money from everybody, and they do nothing with it, except, you'll love this one, everybody, the unions in Canada are funding pedophiles. That's correct. That's who they fund. They're funding Antifa. They're funding Black Lives Matter. They're funding the Communist League of Ontario. They are funding all these crazy left-wing drag queen storytime groups. They fund everything sick and perverse. Yeah. And when you take them to court, the judges are members of the union, so you lose. Why would you invest in a country where the unions absolutely destroy every single business anyway? Why? Please don't do it. I beg you, do not do it. Oh, man. Now, there is a mentality that Canadians have. Canadians, again, are isolationist. They just don't know what's going on in the world. They really don't, but they think that they do. Why? Because Canada has the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which gets $1.4 billion a year from taxpayers to lie to Canadians, to offer propaganda 24 hours a day. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation owns half of the radio stations in the country. Half. With that kind of a budget, they are incapable of putting a single TV show in the top 20. It's garbage entertainment. It's not entertainment at all. So the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation lies to Canadians about the outside world. So with Canada being as broke and destitute as it is, you know what Canadians say? Oh, I'm just going to stay here because it's the same everywhere around the world. How do I know this? Because CBC said so. No, it's not at all. I'm here in Panama City. It's got a better subway system than every Canadian city combined, which you can ride for 35 cents. I can ride better buses than anywhere in Canada for 25 cents. The buildings down here are all brand new. They're beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. There's casinos everywhere where the staff are friendly and kind and polite. There's jobs everywhere. Every single shopping mall here in Panama City is better than every single mall in Canada and about 80% of the malls in the United States. And they are packed with people shopping and having a great time. All right. So what I'm getting at, Canadians, don't be the idiots that you're proving the world that you are. It's not the same in Canada, around the world as it is in Canada. All right. Panama is better and safer and richer than Canada is. All right. Think about that. And that is why I wasn't even going to announce this until next month, but I'm going to announce it now. That is why I'm working with an investment company here to bring the National Hockey League to Panama City. The population of this city is 2.25 million people with infrastructure that's better than most cities in North America. It's not the same around the world. And Canadians honestly believe that just because the media tells them something is true, that it's true. So what they'll do is they'll say, I'm not going to go to Panama. It's a third world country. No, it's not at all. I've lived here 7.5 months. I'm having the time of my life. The movie theaters here are better than everything back home in Canada. I can watch an ultra D-box movie for $6. You know, the movie theaters here in Panama, when they pop fresh popcorn, they've got two types, regular popcorn and caramel. They actually melt the caramel right in front of you. It's not like it's in a bag from some Chinese distributor. No. They make it right in front of you. Panama is going out of its way to be in the top 20 around the world. So this is not me trying to sell you on Panama for no reason. This is me scolding Canadians for not having the wherewithal and the bravery to go and see what's going on around the world. Instead, you're listening to guys like Kevin O'Leary, who screwed us completely with FinTrack and screwed the crypto market forever in Canada, telling you that now's a good time to invest in Canada because at some point, maybe Justin Trudeau won't be in office. Are you kidding me? When a billionaire gives you stupid, rotten advice, you should discontinue watching that billionaire and let him fail on his own. Which at this point, after having listened to that stupid interview, I hope he does. I really hope he does. Now, the banks. I made a presentation to the mayor of Panama City 3 months ago. And I said, Mr. And I had a translator, of course, saying this for me. But Mr. Mayor, you have an incredible city here. There are 52 banks in the city where foreigners are investing tons of money all the time. You've got the Panama Canal where everything from around the world gets dropped off in Panama City. I said, some of your banks offer between 3 and 12%, depending on what the investment plan is. Then I showed them what Canadian banks were paying or are paying Canadians in the way of interest. And Toronto Dominion Bank, which is one of the big ones, is paying 0.01% on your money. Even if you've got $1 million in the bank in Canada, that's the interest rate that you're getting. And all of them were floored. Panamanians couldn't believe that Canadians were getting ripped off that much. So, yeah, Canada's banking is a joke. Now, one more thing I got to touch here. Let's talk about the banks, Canadian banks. They are not respected around the world. Canadian banks will not allow you to transfer money here to Panama or Costa Rica or Mexico. Only the United States. Isn't that sick? So what you've got to do in Canada is you've got to convert your money to US, have an American bank account, which I can help you get, and then transfer your money to the United States, then transfer from the States here to Panama. Yeah, that's what the Canadian banks do. They don't want Canadian dollars leaving the country because then they're going to lose their monopoly. The Canadian Bank Act also was written 99 and a half years ago, and it was going to expire next year on June 30th. But the Canadian government's so worried about what I tell people that they've got the spy agency CSIS watching all my shows. So CSIS was what they're called, goes to Justin Trudeau saying, hey, we're still watching this big mouth Kevin J. Johnston guy, and he's telling Canadians to get their money into Panama and do a bank run and drain every dollar to Canada because the Bank Act is expiring, which meant there would be no more federal currency. So you're welcome, Canada. Trudeau added 2 more years to the Bank Act. So now instead of it being a 100-year Bank Act, it's 102 years. Canada, you're welcome. I bought you 2 more years to get your money moved, but they're not going to renew it again. No matter how loud I am and how obnoxious I am and how much I criticize the Canadian government, they're only going to do that once. So in 2.5 years, the Canadian dollar won't be worth jack, nothing. Got to get it out of there. Here's another thing. Around the world, especially in America, banks are supposed to stimulate the economy by introducing capital into the country. Bank loans are supposed to be given out to citizens so they can build businesses and pay future taxes, and then repay those loans and take more loans to keep the money flowing in the society. So American banks and banks around the world are capital venture banks. It's capital-based banking. That's why the United States was number 1 for all those years, because you could get your hands on investment money. Canada's banking system is asset-based banking. So if you don't own a house or already have $1 million, you can't borrow $1 million. The first thing all these drones, all these idiots in the bank ask you is, oh, do you have a house? What's your address? We're going to use it as collateral. Oh, it's always foreigners. I hate it. Canadian-born people don't work in any Canadian banks anymore. You can't get an English-speaking bank manager anymore. I despise the fact that in Canada, you can't raise capital. The only way to raise capital in Canada is to scam people. It's because of the banking system. Why would you invest in a country that does this? Oh, and by the way, Kelly, as for Canada's exit tax, that did not become law yet. But if you're worried about taxes, contact me. I'll get rid of all your Canadian taxes. Every single Canadian tax you've ever paid, I'll get it back for you. That's how good I am at what I do. So Canadian banks are positively worthless because you just can't get money out of them. Trudeau, during the Ottawa truckers convoy, the protest against the fake pandemic nonsense, Trudeau shut down the bank accounts of people who protested. And around the world, what happened? Everyone said, oh my God, the prime minister is shutting down bank accounts for protests? They pulled their money. That's right. Investors pulled their money, which is why you should too. Because if Trudeau doesn't like you, he's going to shut down your bank account and steal all your money. The banks already showed us that they're willing to do it. And then the deputy prime minister, who's the granddaughter of a literal German Nazi from World War II, comes out and makes this big speech about the fact that if you protest in Canada, if you say anything bad about this government, we will shut down your bank accounts without court orders. And they wrote themselves a law that let themselves do it. Why would you invest in a country where nobody's bank accounts are safe? Now, one more thing. Check this one out. The Canada Revenue Agency, this is a criminal organization who claim to be in the best interest of Canada. They lie to Canadian citizens and bully them into paying taxes that you really don't have to pay. If they want money from you, they will send a requirement to pay letter to the banks, which has no legal enforcement capacity behind it. But the banks know that Canadians are cowards and will not sue them. So the banks just go ahead and give your money to the Canada Revenue Agency. Now, if you want to get your money back, file criminal charges against the bank manager and all the tellers in there for stealing your money. Canadians can do this. You've got the right to do it, but Canadians won't do it. That's why the banks are taking your money and just giving it away. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't get court orders. They think that they don't need to, but their requirement to pay letter is nothing. If you look at Section 317 of the Excise Tax Act, you will see that if a bank doesn't give the CRA money if the CRA asks for it, then it says that the bank will be held may be held liable, but there's no punishment. So if you look at Canadian laws, there has to be a punishment for something to be enforceable. There's nothing in the Excise Tax Act or the Income Tax Act where there is actually a punishment issued. You know why? Because there is no punishment that gets issued. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't have lawyers of their own. They count on the Justice Department to supply lawyers, but the lawyers won't sue the banks because the CRA won't pay them to do it. The CRA doesn't sue people. They just send out these letters requirement to pay. So when Canadians have their money stolen, Canadians mistakenly believe it's from the Canada Revenue Agency. It's not. The bank did it. Your bank did it. So your banks in Canada will give your money away whenever they feel like doing it. Why would you invest in a country that does that to its citizens? I certainly wouldn't at all. Now, if you factor in income tax in Canada, if you factor in, here's some of the taxes that Canadians pay. The federal income tax, the provincial income tax of the province that they reside within. If it's in Quebec, there's another tax that they pay. Then there's Canada Pension Plan. It's a Ponzi scheme that you pay into, which you're never going to get after the year 2032. Then there's unemployment insurance you got to pay. So you could, in just the taxes there, you could lose up to 48% of your paycheck in Canada. Then you got to pay property tax on your house. And in most provinces, you've got to pay a provincial sales tax on everything that you buy, including haircuts and movie tickets and popcorn and whatever else. Then there's also the federal goods and services tax, which is 5% on top of everything you buy. So if you buy a car for $100,000, you've got to pay in the province of Ontario $13,000 in tax. Yeah, the provincial tax and the goods and services tax. In the province of Ontario, if a used car is being registered by you, you've got to pay provincial sales tax on it. If it changes hands 30 times, that car gets taxed 30 times. So you've got the 13% tax in Ontario. In Quebec, what they do is they put the 5% federal tax on everything you buy in Quebec. Then they put their provincial tax on top of that number. So it's almost like a compound that Quebec will do. Talk about crazy. But then there's also gas tax, liquor tax, entertainment tax, hotel tax. By the time you pay all the taxes in Canada, you're losing 73% of your paychecks. And Canadians are scratching their heads. Why am I broke? I can't make ends meet. Stop paying your taxes. There's only one tax in Canada you have to pay. Only one. And that would be property tax. That's right. Property tax. Because the municipalities somehow have been able to weasel their way into stealing your house if you don't pay property tax. But you don't have to pay federal tax. You can't do prison time for it. And if you hire me to do your taxes for you, guess what happens? I'm going to go back 10 years on your tax file, and I'm going to get you back at least half of that. And the CRA, they've tried to stop me, and they can't. So understand this, everybody. Taxes in Canada, you know what they pay for? Pedophiles to destroying the lives of children. They go to Zelensky in the Ukraine. They go to Lesotho, so Lesothans can rape more women. It goes to Boko Haram in Nigeria so that Muslims can kill Christians in the Biafran state. It goes to Ethiopia so that the Ethiopians can kill the Eritreans. And it goes to Eritreans so that they can do God knows what with it. All right. Canadian dollars fund wars all over the world. Why are you paying taxes? Stop. Every time you pay $1 of tax in Canada, at least 10 black people are going to be killed somewhere in Africa because it's going there for bullets and guns. It's not going for food, infrastructure, investment. Nothing. Stop paying your taxes in Canada. It's ridiculous. But investors out there have begun catching on to just how evil Canada really is, and they're pulling all their money out. So don't invest in Canada, because the only thing that's going to happen here is Canadians are going to steal your money, the government's going to steal your money, and then give it away to terrorists and baby killers all over the world. And I know this. I'm a journalist. I've been a journalist in Canada for a very long time. I'm not a journalist anymore. I did give up on that this year to pursue taxes, getting people back their taxes. But I'm the guy that stuck my nose in absolutely everybody's business when I was a journalist. And everything I learned led the Canadian government down the pathway of arresting me over and over again. 22 arrests, 7 months in solitary confinement, over a year of being banned from the internet. They stole my house, my money, and my car. That's what happens when you speak out against the government in Canada. So now here I am in Panama, and they're really angry about it. The Canadian government's saying, we have no jurisdiction in Panama. How do we silence Kevin J. Johnston now? You don't. So for those of you out there who got court orders against me in Canada, and you think that I'm not going to talk about you because you got a court order, think again. Might want to find a way to apologize to me for wasting all my time in the courts, because I'm about to start divulging secrets about Canadians, bad Canadians, that the world is not going to believe. And it's going to cost a lot of people everything. And so be it. And you deserve it. And as for Mary, you're asking me, why is there no CPP after 2035? Because it's a Ponzi scheme. It's empty. Because the accounts are empty. Even the Canada Revenue Agency right now is broke. So when they owe people money back, they have to wait till they collect money from other people to pay it out. The system, it's empty. It's broken. All the systems in Canada are broken. So think about that. Devo says taxes are good. Scandinavian countries have the best standard of living. That's not because of necessarily taxes. That is because Scandinavian countries, until they started letting all the Muslims and the junk in from Africa, they had a high trust society where everybody looked the same, spoke the same language, and abided by the same religion and principles. That's why the standard of living was so high. It's not because government knows what they're doing. It's because they had a common culture and they gave it away. They gave it away to rapists, thieves, and murderers. Too bad for you. Alrighty. I'm just going to look at a couple quick questions here. Alrighty. Oh, if anybody who wants to know my thoughts on Pierre Poilievre, go back to the beginning of this show, watch the replay on freedomreport.ca, because I covered him earlier in the show. Now, Canada's economy. I got a lot of points to get through here, so I'm going to start being a bit shorter with what I've got to say. Canada's economy is not growing. There's nowhere for it to grow into. If you invest in Canada, because Canada is a Ponzi scheme, money gets brought in and it just disappears. It doesn't create jobs. It goes into taxes to create more government jobs, but to have more government jobs, they just take more taxes from we the people. So the economy is stagnant because all the millionaires have left. After Trudeau's debacle with the banks, all the investors have left. All the major manufacturers have left. We've covered that earlier in the show. And it's impossible to attract talent because the Canadian dollar is worth nothing. It's garbage. If I take my Canadian money that I make and bring it here to Panama, I'm losing 30 cents on every dollar. But it's still better than keeping it in Canada. Absolutely it is. So with no economic growth in Canada and no economy worth talking about, with a god-awful dollar that will get lower, don't invest in Canada. This is a Canadian citizen, former journalist, now tax expert, full-time tax guy, telling you, I have dug into everything that Canada has to offer the people, and I can tell you it's a resounding zero that the country has to offer. So you're better, you got to be a little bit selfish now, Canada. You can't save the country. Pick up, leave, and make money somewhere else. And Panama is on the US dollar, by the way. So you don't have to worry about the Balboa fading. It's tethered directly to the US dollar. All righty. If you're going to be trying to buy a house in Canada, you'll notice that garbage houses that were built in the 70s and 80s are selling for between 1.4 and 2.5 million dollars. Yeah, you notice that? It's because the entire housing market in Canada is part of the biggest money laundering scheme in the world currently. If money laundering was made illegal in Canada, the entire housing market and economy would completely tank. Houses would drop to less than a fifth of their current value if money laundering stopped in Canada. It's all artificial pricing. When you look at what you can buy in Texas, you can buy a 5,000 square foot home in Texas for $300,000. You can buy an 800 square foot home in Toronto for $1.5 million. And believe me, the house in Texas is a whole lot better. So Canadians can't afford houses. And even if you have a house that's worth $1.5 million, who in the hell are you going to sell it to? Who's got $1.5 million for an 800 square foot bungalow with missing floor tiles? Come on. So your home in Canada, the only way for you to make money on your home right now is take out a loan against it, like a home equity loan, and buy property around the world and Airbnb it out. You got to start to leverage what you have, because when the housing market eventually does tank, when the bubble eventually does burst, every bit of value you've got in your property is going to disappear. And it's sad, but true. So money laundering is what's elevating the prices of it. But the problem also is that municipal rules in Canada prevent everybody from doing the right thing with their own properties. So let's just say, for example, you have a farm anywhere in Canada and you want to build your own community on it. Let's just say you know how to build houses and you want to turn your farm into a neighborhood and then sell it out to other people and deed out parts of your land to those who buy the house. You can't do it. Every single provincial government in Canada will stop you from doing it. They'll get court injunctions and then they'll send the cops out to shoot you if they so desire. They will stop you from doing it. So you've got to be a developer in Canada who has already pre-bribed the provincial and municipal governments to allow construction projects to take place. So unless you can bribe politicians, and it's not going to be like $1,000, it's going to be $1 million or $2 million just to send the bribes out. If you can't bribe someone in Canada, you cannot build houses for sale in the future. You've got to be a developer with the mafioso connections to it, which is why nothing's getting built. Nothing's getting done. Everything is stagnated in Canada because the governments will stop you in every way imaginable. And yes, Hal, money talks, but look at how bad it's become in that there is no economy in Canada because the government is stopping any chance for Canadians to build an economy of their own. Yeah. Oh, there's a good one there. Develop 3D firearms. Well, I told everyone in the past, you might want to start downloading the 3D printer templates to print your own guns, because it's only a matter of time before the Canadian government bans guns. They've already started writing legislation to ban 3D printers so people can't print guns. So mark my word, the Canadian government wants your guns. Yeah, and it'll be just like Australia. When the Australians gave up their guns, like a bunch of dumbasses saying, oh yeah, if we give up our guns, things will be better. Rapes and home invasions went up 800% in the first 30 days after the gun grab. Don't ever give up your guns, everybody. In Canada, and this stat is 2 years old now, Canada only has 3% of all of the world's stocks. So if you wanted to play the stock market, if you're just going to play it in Canada, you're now denying yourself access to 97% of the stock market. And quite frankly, there is nobody that there's no stocks in Canada I'm going to buy. Nothing. The only thing in Canada that I will buy is gold and silver, because Canadian gold and silver is pretty damn good. Maybe maple syrup. I am not going to be investing in anything else in Canada at all. So stocks, when you're deliberately keeping yourself away from 97% of the market, you're screwed. If you're buying stocks in Canada, you may as well just burn the cash. Canada's investments also, they're not diversified. They're really not diversified. What could you possibly invest in Canada? There's hardwood and softwood, but the left-wing nuts are stopping us from cutting down trees, even though the boreal forest still has 540 billion trees within it. If you count shrubs in Canada, there's over 1 trillion trees in the country. But the left-wing nuts say, no, don't cut down the trees. So that industry is gone. Then we've got the vegan nutcases in Canada saying, no, you can't have beef. And they're trying to stop beef production. So beef production in Canada is down to 10% of what it was 40 years ago. That's bad. Considering the population's higher now, why are we not growing beef? Now we've also got them trying to stop chicken farming too. And for whatever the reason, you conservatives in Canada out there who are allowing the left wing to shut down food production. You're just standing back saying, well, it's not really my business. Yeah, it is your business. So on top of not having an economy and on top of not having enough food now, you're still not even fighting for your right to have these things. My God, what? I would not invest in food in Canada because the left wing is shutting it all down. And the government is also left wing and they're going along with it. And yes, SRB 78. Yes, it's because of this climate change scam nonsense. Did you know in Canada right now, Canada is in danger of losing its forest because Canadians are not generating enough carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Canada is a carbon negative country. Trees eat that stuff, man. Trees eat carbon dioxide and they defecate oxygen. So when you're not burning wood, when you are not driving cars, when you're not polluting in some way, the trees are dying. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Oil production in Canada is down to 5% of its maximum capacity. So I would not invest in oil companies either. Kevin O'Leary, in that speech that he gave earlier in the show today, said that Canada is going to have a great artificial intelligence sector. Where? What artificial intelligence companies have you heard of in Canada? What computing companies have you heard of in Canada? What technology companies have you heard of in Canada? The talent doesn't live in Canada. Canadians with high skill sets like me leave like I did to make money elsewhere like I'm doing. So highly skilled people that can create artificial intelligence projects don't live in Canada anymore. You know where they went? Dubai. There's money there. And the Dubai government is going out of its way to create AI software to help it expand beyond its problems that it's having now. You know, the Saudi Arabians, I know it was a gimmick, but the Saudi Arabians went out and they made an artificially intelligent robot with a female face on it, a citizen. So the Saudis are outdoing the Canadians in technology. The Panamanians are programming AI now. The Mexicans are doing it. My God, man, the Argentinians are doing it. Everybody around the world is getting into technology. Canada is shutting down its own technology. Don't invest in Canadian technology groups. They're not going to go anywhere. They won't do it. You want proof of what I'm saying? Try to hire a Canadian website design company and see if after 6 months you have a website running or not. Canadians don't know what they're doing. The technology sector in Canada is dead. Don't invest in it, period. If you were to, let's think about the returns you're going to get here. A lot of corporations will entice you to invest within them because they will pay you dividends when it becomes profitable. But if you're going to take dividends in Canada and you're dumb and you tell the Canada Revenue Agency that you took a dividend, they're going to tax about half of it. So why would you want to invest in the country that takes half your profit from you? Now, if I'm your tax guy you're never going to pay those dividends, or the dividend taxes, sorry. You'll keep them. But there's just not enough corporations that make enough money to pay dividends anyway. So think about that, which is why I'm telling you that Kevin O'Leary was wrong when he said what he said at the beginning of this show. There's nothing to invest in. He says it himself. He's not invested in Canada for the last 8 years. He doesn't even live in Canada. He has Irish citizenship. He's also got UAE citizenship, and he lives in the United States and is not investing in Canada. So if Canada's richest man doesn't even live in the country, why are you taking any of his advice on investing within that country? I wouldn't. My God. It is almost impossible in Canada to have a diverse portfolio. A lot of everybody says to me, like, Kevin, how do I protect my money? Well, I tell you the truth. You got to have some cash, not much, but some gold, some silver, some crypto. I highly recommend Bitcoin and XRP, and some property. But Canadians are broke. They've been taxed to death, and all this multicultural crap has destroyed what little economy was left. And it's not like white people can get bank loans anymore because no white people work in the banks. And all these racists from all over the world who hate white people are making sure that white people cannot get capital. Yeah, it's a true story. Racism against white people has absolutely crushed Canada. And white people just put up with it. You don't call it out. I do. I always did. Yeah, I got famous on Instagram in Canada because I was calling brown and black and yellow and red racists out whenever they would call me bigot and racist because they couldn't talk me into giving them free money. And they would call me these names. I would call them the same thing 5 times louder, and they would give up. And I got a whole ton of kudos for it, and my YouTube channel exploded, and so on. But that's the whole thing. So in trying to have a diverse portfolio in Canada, it's next to impossible. So coming to Canada and investing in overpriced property and in dividends that you're not going to get anyway, you're throwing the money away, completely throwing it away. In Canada, because all the major manufacturers and major international conglomerates have left the country, we have tiny, small, and medium-sized companies. That's all that's left in Canada. And because of mismanagement of everything, they're not profitable anymore. So if you are somebody who is making money in Canada on stocks, get a hold of me. We can talk about it. But I'm sure that the only way to make money right now in Canada on the stock market is insider trading. Why not? The rich do it. Why can't the poor do it? Think about that. So we can't attract talent because there's no large companies left to pay high salaries. We can't attract talent also because nobody wants to pay the taxes that you've got to pay in Canada. Even professional athletes don't want to play professional sports in Canada anymore because they get double taxed doing it, which is ridiculous beyond reproach. I mean, why would a National Hockey League player want to play for the Leafs? First off, they're never going to win a damn thing. But secondly, you got to pay U.S. tax because the NHL is an American corporation, but you've also got to pay Canadian income tax because Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment is a Canadian company. But here's the thing with these Canadian athletes. Hire me to do your taxes, guys. You won't pay a penny to the CRA ever again. I have found out that you don't actually have to pay the double tax, but Canadians think that they do. And it's absolutely crushing Canadians who voluntarily give tax dollars to both the IRS and the CRA. Now, if you're working in the United States, the IRS are pretty crazy, so you do want to pay your American taxes. But in Canada, my God, you don't have to. But people think they do. And unfortunately, all the corporations in Canada honestly think that they've got to pay tax too. So they won't put anybody on contract and they just get raked over the coals tax-wise. So don't invest in Canada. Invest elsewhere. I'm just checking a couple of your questions here, folks. Okay. So as for tax breaks in the United States, I will be discussing on my Thursday night show a lot about to do with tax breaks and how to hide your money and whatnot. But tonight's show was an absolute necessity to do because I could not believe what I was hearing when Kevin O'Leary, the richest man in Canada, came out and said the stupidest thing in the world. And that is because eventually Justin Trudeau will no longer be in office, that Canada is going to be a hotbed for investment. He's wrong. It's going to be a place where you lose everything you own. I know. I lost everything I own in Canada just because the government didn't like what I was saying. And I trust me when I say this. If you're opening up companies in Canada, the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal government, the administrative government, they're all going to want taxes from you. All of it. We've got to dismantle all these things in Canada, but Canadians will not fight. So until that time, investing in Canada is completely and totally pointless. Wow. Growth. We don't have growth in Canada. There's nothing to grow. No investment, no money, no talent, and Canadians don't even have a desire to live there anymore. So there's just no growth in Canada. Don't invest in Canada because your money won't grow. Not ever. Argentina, Brazil, even Colombia now are showing growth in their economies. And Colombia doesn't have much. It's got a couple of really big cities in it for tourism, but it doesn't really have manufacturing. It's got cocaine. It's got that. And it's got coffee. Lots of coffee. But it doesn't have industry beyond that. And it's still got better growth than Canada. Think about that. All righty. There is the bias in Canada. And this is something I'm going to now address directly to Canadians. A lot of you have a bias that Canada is wonderful. It's great. It's peaceful because of multiculturalism. It has free healthcare and so on. You couldn't be more wrong. Multiculturalism destroyed the Roman Empire. It's destroyed Canada. It always will. Cultures cannot get along, which is why we have fences and borders. So you screw that up. The idea that free healthcare was a good thing was great when it was first conceived. And Canadian healthcare up until the late 90s was actually pretty good. And I liked the idea of being able to break my arm and get fixed up and leave and not have to pay at the hospital. I loved that. That was amazing. So Canadians were really healthy. But because of all this multicultural crap, we let Indian culture into Canada. With Indians, if it's free, they line up and they take as much of it as they can get their hands on. So where Canadians would, if someone got sick in Canada, a Canadian-born person, regardless of skin color, would go, maybe have a family member there for company, but both people wouldn't get checked out. Just the sick person would, or the injured person would. But in India, their stupid culture says that if one person in a family of 12 gets sick, all 12 of them would go. And all 12 of them were not taxpayers. Maybe none of them were. But the free healthcare paid for by Canadian-born people was given to them even when they didn't need it. And now the hospitals are broke. There's no more money left for Canadian healthcare. And you saw during the fake pandemic that Canadian hospitals were willing to murder Canadians, which they did en masse. Canadian hospitals killed people. Remember the old lady who didn't want to wear a mask in the Toronto hospital and the security guards there beat her to death? And the other security guard who was monitoring the security camera knew that his friends were beating an old woman to death, so he turned the camera away. Remember that? Security guards and police in Canadian hospitals will beat you to death. And now, if you go to a Canadian hospital, whether you want it or not, they will inject you with COVID vaccines. They're doing it now. Do not go to a Canadian hospital. So why would you want to invest in Canadian medicine when it's only allowed to be socialized, but it sucks? And the hospitals are there to kill you. My God, they'll kill you. In Toronto, it takes between 6 and 48 hours to be seen in the emergency room. It's awful. And you're not allowed to have private healthcare centers. So this free healthcare that Canadians say they have does not cover dental or optometrists. It doesn't cover chiropodists or massage or alternative therapy. In fact, the Canadian government's going out of its way to ban supplements and to ban homeopathic care and to ban naturopathic care because they want you buying drugs. They want to poison you with drugs in Canada. If you invest in Canada, you're wasting your money. Do not, under any circumstances, invest in Canada. It is a god-awful, communist, Marxist center of death and despair and brokenness. You are going to lose your shirt. You're going to lose everything if you invest in my homeland. In fact, I'm so dismayed and disgusted by what Canada has become that the second that I get my Colombian passport, I'm going to make a big production out of burning my Canadian passport. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. And you heard Kevin O'Leary in Cairo, the Egyptians don't want Canadians there. Your Canadian passport is not going to get you into other countries because Trudeau has proven to the entire world that he is a pedophile and that he wants pedophilia to reign as the dominant cultural practice in Canada. And the countries out there around the world are not having any of it. And Canadians are taking the blame for it. And the rest of the world will continue to shun Canadians because Canada, this is your fault too. You elected that idiot not once but twice, but then you let him stay in office and you didn't shut down the government violently when you had the chance. And you had the chance at the in the Ottawa convoy, Canadians, that you turned it into a goddamn party. You were smoking weed and drinking in the streets and dancing like a bunch of idiots. You could have taken the cops down by force. You could have taken the government out by force. That was the last chance you had. And I'm telling you now, everybody, Canada as a country is finished. It's over. You now have to get your money, your gold, your silver, your assets, everything. Get it out of the country before it's taken from you. If you're outside of Canada, if you're a foreigner, I'm a Canadian citizen who had to escape Canada because the government made 7 attempts on my life just for talking. Don't go to Canada, man. They will take everything you have. And you'll probably end up like me with knife wounds all over your body. Yeah, it's a true story. And all of you who know who I am, you know my story. Just type in my name and look at all the crap they've had to say about me in every newspaper in the entire country. This is a warning to all of you around the world. Do not invest in Canada. You'll lose everything. And to the Canadian people, I beg you, please get out before they stop you from getting out. It's only a matter of time before they bring in this stupid digital ID and you won't be allowed to travel. God, please just get out of there. Look at how happy I am here in Panama. Look at what I've done in Panama. In 7.5 short months in a so-called third world country, which it's not. I've made more money in 7.5 months than I did in 24 years in that communist dump. And I'm only getting better every single day, and you can too. And I honestly want that for Canadians. I want you to do well. You're just not going to do well there. And that is it for now, everybody. We are going to be covering more tax stuff, more money stuff, more investment stuff on Thursday. On Thursday nights, we talk. It's called the Real Estate and Money Show. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time, again, here on freedomreport.ca. And this is the Kevin J. Johnston Show, which runs absolutely every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time on freedomreport.ca. I know that we've had a little bit of a different approach to the show tonight, everybody. And you can tell I've got bronchitis. I'm having a hell of a time getting air through my vocal cords tonight. But I just had to bring all of this to your attention because I truly do want prosperity to return. And unfortunately, it's not coming back. Canada, I'm sorry, it's not coming back. I'm going to be dead and buried for more than 30 years before a strong man rises in Canada to pull it out of the ashes that the left wing have created. So get out now and enjoy life because it's really, really short. Woo! My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show that runs every Tuesday at 9 p.m. And now, oh my God, I can't even talk, right here on freedomreport.ca. I love you all and good night.